In the serpentes suborder, you have snakes that eat rodents, snakes that eat frogs, snakes that eat fish, and even snakes that eat ants. Then you have some other snakes that decided, you know what, I'm a cut above. I'm just going to eat other snakes. Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to take a look at some of these incredible ophiophagous snakes and try to figure out why it is they do what they do. Let's dive in. The indigo snake is basically a big, beautiful, docile snake which seems to be slow moving and gentle with humans, but very, very aggressive with its prey. It is the heaviest and longest snake in the US, and unlike other species on this list, it isn't a snake eating specialist, it's more that it just kind of eats everything it sees. So if it sees a rattlesnake, it eats it. If it sees a king snake even, it eats it. And it's got a very determined kind of hyped up prey response. It likes to munch on anything it can basically by simply pinning it down and grabbing it. Now in case you're thinking this is the kind of thing you'd see in the tropics rather than North America, you are right. This is mostly a tropical group of snakes, if you can call it that. There's the eastern indigo snake, which is in Florida, the Texas indigo snake, which is in Texas, but the Texas indigo snake is a subspecies of the black-tailed cribo, which goes all the way down into Central America and sort of northwest and South America, and there's a couple of other species of cribo as well. So this is what I'd call a peripheral species, so kind of a tropical species at the peripheral edge of its habitable zone in Florida. Now we're going to watch a clip of an indigo snake preying on one of the invasive Burmese pythons in Florida, and I'll come back to why this is interesting in a moment. Let's take a look.
With a swift bite to the python's head, the indigo snake subdues the hatchling, firmly holding it in its grip and blocking the prey's airway with its powerful jaws. Through consistently pinning the young python to the ground, the attacker's strategy is simple: to tire its prey enough before swallowing it alive. The hatchling is losing its strength fast and being dragged near the indigo's lair to avoid the risk of being discovered by other predators.
I've seen this footage quite a few times, and I've seen it in the news recently, even, them saying that indigos are being released to combat the pythons. The truth is that the indigo snake isn't going to be able to combat the Burmese python in any meaningful way in Florida because their habitat was previously degraded so badly that there just aren't enough indigo snakes around, which is a shame because they are an absolutely beautiful species. Okay, imagine you're in Australia and you're a big, massive tank of a snake which just likes to munch on other reptiles. You're surrounded by these other elapid snakes, lots of different species which are very, very highly venomous with this broadly neurotoxic venom. All you have to do is develop resistance to that broadly neurotoxic venom and you've got a whole snake buffet around you. That is exactly what the Mulga snake has done. Now you could say that Mulga snake is kind of like Australia's answer to the king cobra, which is also interesting because people have asked me to do a versus king cobra versus Mulga snake comparison video, so let me know in the comments if that's something you'd like to see. We're going to take a look at a clip of a Mulga snake feeding here. Although people say it often, they don't have full immunity. Sometimes even I say immunity when I should say resistance. They have very strong resistance to the venom of other snakes.
A killer of killers. The Mulga snake is a snake's worst nightmare. Mulga's flickering tongue has picked up a scent trail. He's locked onto a target and is relentless in his pursuit. A bite from even the deadliest of snakes has little effect. So the western brown poses no threat. Sensing the peril, it attempts to flee. In desperation, it tries to conceal itself within a nearby hole, but the Mulga uses his size and strength to block the only exit to what now becomes a tomb. To ensure a quick and efficient kill, the venom output of the Mulga is higher than any other snake on Earth.
Fascinating to see that when you look at its upper jaw, the structure of it, and the structure of its head, it does remind you of the king cobra. And that's probably got something to do with jaw power and that grip holding onto their prey. Something they said there is that they have the highest yield of any snake in terms of venom. I'm not sure if that's true because people dispute that regularly. They say that the gaboon viper has a higher yield. So honestly, I couldn't tell you, but it's something interesting to research. King snakes are incredibly widespread in North America and, in my opinion, some of the most beautiful snakes overall. They are chunky, they're highly resistant to rattlesnake venom, and they're ridiculously strong constrictors. In fact, you could probably say that they might be 3 times stronger than a constrictor of a similar size, for example. Take a look at this video of a desert king snake constricting a rattlesnake. Obviously the rattlesnake isn't a constrictor itself, but it does have some strength, but there it had zero chance. No chance whatsoever. If you're wondering why the US has king snakes, why they're so widespread and so successful, it comes down to 2 reasons really. There is reasonable species richness in terms of different types of snakes that live there, so there's a nice buffet, and for some of those species there's a good species abundance. So in any one area of the US, you tend to find, not everywhere, but in many places, you tend to find that there's always 1, 2, 3 species of snake which are particularly common. It could be the eastern garter snake, it could be the Decay's brown snake, or out west it could be the Pacific ring-neck snake, for example. And you'll find that in any habitat, or most habitats and most regions within that area, there's just lots of them. For a king snake, there's all these smaller, harmless snakes that it can prey on. It can just root around, and it's got, like I say, this amazing buffet of nicely packaged meals, because a snake is a great meal for a snake. Obviously, it's got everything a snake needs. Now let's take a look at DNA reptiles. Discussing this a little bit further, this is an account that I regularly feature on the channel because I find they cover a wide array of topics, and again, they haven't disappointed here.
This is a really cool situation. This is an eastern king snake about to eat an eastern rat snake, or in this case, it's a black eastern rat snake.
Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with eastern rat snakes, they're really wiry and strong. They've got a ridge down their belly that helps them climb trees. They can scale the front of a tree and go straight up it. They're not weak. They're strong constrictors by anyone's kind of, measure, if it were. And they are nowhere near as strong as a king snake.
Now, it's called a king snake because, well, they're the king of the snakes in the area they live. If it has king in the name, it probably eats other snakes. Now, there are many species of king snakes all over the United States and into Mexico, South America. They're just all over the place. And the one thing they really have in common is the love of other snakes. This speckled king snake, which is from like the Louisiana, Mississippi area, loves to munch on copperheads.
I'm going a bit off topic now, but in terms of beauty, I think the speckled king snake is just the most amazing species. It wins it for North American colubrids, in my opinion. Now we're on to a really weird one. The Cape file snake, sometimes called the common file snake. It's one of several species of file snakes. It's got these strange keeled scales with these tiny little tubercles all over, so they're a little bit rough, fine textured. They're keeled, and then it's got these weird bare patches of skin between the scales, and it gets even weirder. It's also got a triangular shaped body. Basically, they spend a lot of time under bark, in crevices, in debris, hiding during the day particularly, and we think that their triangular body shape helps them wedge into crevices and give them leverage in these tight corners. We also think that these keeled scales give them good grip and traction, because they probably hunt under there as well. And we think that the skin between the scales, this interstitial skin you'd call it, tends to bunch up kind of like an accordion and allows it to push through these spaces. So it's a very highly adapted snake with all these strange derived characteristics which allows it to fit perfectly into its niche. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like, hype and subscribe. It all helps the channel and I need all the help I can get. Thank you very much. Now on to an infamous snake in Southeast Asia, the banded krait. This is an extremely toxic species. It's also triangular shaped, bizarrely, but we think it's not triangular shaped for the same reasons as the Cape file snake. The leading hypothesis is that it is triangular in shape because this somehow conserves muscular energy when moving around and cruising looking for prey. I'm not 100% on that myself, but this is what the experts say. Instead of using force and pinning prey like the indigo snake would, for example, kraits just bite and they just hang on. And their venom is so ridiculously potent that the other snakes, even if they have, any measure of resistance, they just keel over after a while. Let's take a look at some footage.
This is a bitter snake duel. The king rat snake and the venomous banded krait locked together, each twisting and tightening around the other.
To start with, I'm not even going to dispute whether that's a rat snake or not. There's so many species that people in different countries call rat snakes that I'm just not going to argue it anymore.
The krait makes the first move, sinking its fangs into the rat snake's body. But the rat snake isn't backing down. Within moments, it bites back, struggling to clamp down with its smaller jaws. Snake fights aren't like those of other animals. There's no testing the waters or going easy, it's all or nothing combat. The krait's advantage soon becomes clear. It's longer, stronger, and its grip on the rat snake's body doesn't waver.
Okay, so the AI voice is terrible. I hate those videos, but there was some valuable footage in there, and we could see that towards the end that prey snake was starting to get a bit wobbly. It was starting to act a bit weird, and the neurotoxin was kicking in. Bizarrely, in humans, that neurotoxin can take hours to kick in. It's very, very strange, but it's extremely lethal, basically. Now the big one, literally, the king cobra. Often I talk about this species as if it is just one species, but it's important to remember that the king cobra is a member of a species complex. It's several species with a huge range, and they're hugely successful, and they're huge. They're the world's largest snake, they have a very strong bite, and large quantities of neurotoxic venom. It's essentially the king of snake-eating snakes, as the name would imply, and it is particularly well adapted for this for a few reasons. It is the longest venomous snake in the world. I mean, it competes with pythons regularly in terms of size. It's kind of got a very large venom volume and a decent venom potency, but it's also got a venom that is specialized towards reptilian prey, so it works on snakes. Now, what really sets the king cobra aside, though, is the ultimate weapon that we should all know about as the dominant species on the planet, and that is intelligence. They are more intelligent than their prey by a good measure, and they are believed to be the most intelligent snake in the world. Some people dispute it, but I think I believe it. And for example, they're the only snake to build a nest. Look at this incredible documentary footage.
Nearly 3 months have passed since Nagaina mated with the village male. It's now the end of May, and she'll soon be ready to lay. King cobras are the only snakes that build a nest. It's a unique skill that allows Nagaina to select the perfect spot to give her young the greatest chance of survival. On a slope near the base of a tree, her nest is shaded from the hot sun.
Now, picking the right spot for a nest, some of that could be instinctive. Most snakes they instinctively pick like a crevice or under a log or somewhere humid and dark and safe, and they do that, regularly, so it doesn't necessarily take a lot of brain power. But I think choosing that area by the tree, building the nest, planning it a little bit, and as I'm told, they often spend several days or even weeks making the nest and getting it just right, I think that shows a good measure of intelligence. We've seen this species on the channel before, but I think it's worth putting in here because I'm hoping for at least a few of you who didn't see it in the previous video will find this one to be a surprise. So most of you who live in the US, for example, if you live, Kentucky, Ohio, anywhere like that, you're probably going to think of ring-neck snakes as these tiny little snakes you find on the rocks in the forest, and they're kind of one evolutionary step up from a worm. In terms of, appearance and behavior, they kind of get eaten by everything, and they're not very scary, to be honest. But the Regal Ring-neck snake lives out west, it lives in desert areas, and it's got a venom specialized towards taking out reptilian prey. So, we're going to take a look at this footage of one actually taking out a king snake.
Looks like he's kind of chewing.
The chewing is an interesting observation because this is obviously a rear-fanged species. They don't have a lot of venom. They've got a little bit of venom with a poor delivery system, so they've got these enlarged teeth with grooves in the back of their mouth, and they have to chew on prey to get enough in. As you can see, the king snake isn't able to use its strength as a constrictor because it is simply too intoxicated by the ringneck snake's venom. So for me, this makes the ringneck snake probably one of the smallest and most surprising ophiophagous snakes in the whole of North America. So there you have it. Some snakes have evolved to eat other snakes because it makes sense and they have the ecological opportunity to do so. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you've got any questions, don't forget to put them in the comments and I will be back next week. Thank you very much.